Hey everybody, it's your girl Neil, and welcome to Simply Nail's Tiny Studio. How are you doing today? Happy Wednesday. Happy Wednesday. It's the beginning of a new week. I think we already talked about that. How, I see Wednesdays as the beginning of another week, of a new week. And so I'm starting out this week right. I have my schedule together. I know what I want to do. I'm filming today. Yay. And I wanted to come on here Monday. Um, Before I get into anything going on in the tiny studio, I wanted to come in here Monday when I found out that Malcolm Jamal Warner had made his transition. And I really did want to come in, but when I hear things like that and it touch home for me, I like to sit in it, if that makes any sense. I like to sit in it and I like to, really ruminate about it and think about it. And before I even say anything publicly, like on my social media, which I haven't done, I just posted that he had passed. But I really haven't given a um, any commentary on it, any thoughts on it, because I like to think before I do so. And I like to be respectful as well, meaning when someone, and this is an evolution for me, being that when someone has passed, especially someone that's in the public eye, I like to reflect a lot about who they were, especially in relation to me. Now, of course, I did not know Malcolm Jamal Warner at all, but he was kind of like a little brother. Okay. When the Cosby Show debuted in September of 1984, I was 16 years old and going into my senior year of high school. Okay. And watching I was excited about the Cosby Show. And being that we were Jehovah's Witnesses, I really didn't get a chance to watch the Cosby Show. It came on Thursday nights. So if I was home Thursday evenings, it was really because I was sick and I was an asthmatic type of person. And in the winter times, it was cold and I would get sick. And that was the time that I usually was able to catch the Cosby Show. But even though I wasn't able to watch frequently, in those early days of the Cosby Show, there were episodes that I was aware of, and I was very much excited about this particular sitcom. And the reason why I was really excited about the Cosby Show is because it showed or just portrayed an African American family who were a middle class African American family. The dad was an obstetrician, the mother was an attorney, and together they were raising 5 children. All right. And being that I came from a background where I came from a poor or a working poor class African American family in the city of Detroit, I had aspirations, you know, I shouldn't have had aspirations because I was a Jehovah Witness kid, but I had aspirations of being like Claire and Heathcliff Huxtable. I could see myself living that type of life. I could see myself being a professional woman, a professional African American woman, and raising a family. And what I also liked about it, about the Cosby Show, was not just how the parents were portrayed. I loved the children because I was a young person too. So I would fit somewhere, I would be where I could relate to the Lisa Bonet character, the Denise Huxtable character. And Denise and I were basically the same age. And so, you know, I could really relate to her. I could relate to the show. And most definitely, I could relate to having siblings because I had 3 siblings underneath me, and they weren't as, in my age group, as Theo had siblings in his age group. He had Denise, and then he had Vanessa, and then he had a little bitty Rudy. And, I could relate to having siblings in my household, even though they were really younger than me. I could relate to all of that. But when I looked at Theo, I looked at him as a younger brother. And the antics that, he got into with his family was just, it was just really great how um, Bill Cosby and the writers and the producers crafted um, Theo, Theodore Huxtable. It was really, really cool the way they did that. And I've heard Bill Cosby say in the past that the Theo character was modeled after his own son, Ennis, who passed away tragically, I believe, sometime in in the early 2000s somewhere. I don't know for sure, but you have to look that up. Don't take my word for that. However, that's who Theo was modeled after, was Bill Cosby's experiences with his own son. And I believe Bill Cosby had 5 children, and it was 4 daughters and 1 son. And that's what the whole portrayal of the Cosby Show was about. And Malcolm Jamal Warner was that guy. He was that kid. And no, I didn't have a crush on him or anything, because he would have been younger than me. But to see him on the screen and what he represented as a young African American man, young African American boy, what he represented, the character that he represented on the screen was a positive character. Now, that's not to say that Theo didn't get into any trouble, because who remembers when Theo got his ear pierced? And it got infected. Okay, he was trying to hide that from his dad. Or about how he was having issues with school, and his parents thought that it was because he lacked motivation, and it really was because he was dyslexic, but we wouldn't find that out till later. But his parents harassed him like most parents do. Theo had friends, he had crushes, he had girlfriends. I mean, he was the typical American boy, all right? But he was an African American boy, all right? And so we watched Theo grow up. We watched Theo go through things. We watched Theo make mistakes. Okay, we watched him learn from his mistakes. We watched Theo go from middle school, high school, all the way up to graduating from college. As a matter of fact, I believe the last Cosby Show episode was the episode of Theo graduating from college. So what an arc! What an arc! And Malcolm Jamal Warner, he made a great transition from being a child actor into an adult actor, because I believe right after that he did some things, and then he got into hey, Tiny Studio Assistant. Okay, all right, and you get off at 12. Okay, love you. That was the Tiny Studio Assistant going to her other job. She performed her tiny studio job for me today by making sure I have some tea in this cup, and making sure my lighting and my makeup and my hair and everything was together. So now she's off to her other job that pays more than being a tiny studio assistant. But anyhow, Malcolm Jamal Warner was able to make a really smooth transition over into becoming an adult actor in the world of Hollywood. Some of the things that I remember about Malcolm Jamal Warner as he was aging and becoming an adult was that you would see him in different things. Like I saw him, I love Houdini, and so he was in the Houdini video, Funky Beat. He also produced New Edition's video, or directed New Edition's video, Any Heartbreak. I believe that came out in what, 88, 89, somewhere in there. He interviewed the Jets for the Ebony Showcase. So there were other things that Malcolm Jamal Warner was doing as he grew up in front of us. And and he continued to act. He was on the UPN series called Malcolm and Eddie. Remember that? And then he moved on to another series with Tracy Ellis Ross, where they played a middle class couple raising children. Um, and he was in other things. I didn't get a chance to see him in The Resident, and I just heard that The Resident was canceled over on Netflix after one season. So I'm going to have to go ahead and watch The Resident. I had it on my list, but I be studying and doing things, and I really don't have that much TV time. I watch TV at night and maybe on the weekend. So there are a lot of shows I'm behind on, but I did want to catch up in The Resident. He wasn't just an actor though. Malcolm Jamal Warner was a full, I should say, a fully realized artist. And I guess you have to give, well, I don't guess, you have to give that type of credit to his mother, Pam Warner. You have to give that credit to her for being supportive of her son, and knowing that there were other things about him besides acting, that as an artist, that needed to be nurtured. So you saw Malcolm Jamal Warner going through different mediums of art, and dabbling in it and mastering in it and finding his footing within it. Um, he was a musician. Okay, he was a fantastic poet. He had a wonderful voice. He had done voice acting for the Magic School Bus. Did you know that? Um, he had done some really, really cool things, transitioning from a child actor to a fully formed adult artist, you know? And so it's a wonderful thing to see or to witness an artist really explore who they are and be able to really engage in their craft and be successful at it, you know? Now we know Malcolm had a lot of different relationships, within Hollywood, outside Hollywood, and I'm really not here for the conversation that's going on, that's happening on social media about his exes who are public figures who have posted pictures of them with Malcolm when they were a couple. I'm not really for the conversation that it's inappropriate for them to do that, that it's disrespectful to Malcolm's wife, that they post pictures like that. I'm really not here for it, because what I feel is that people grieve in different ways. And depending on how the relationship ended is how you react to the grief, you know. And so if the relationship ended on a good note, and you know what, to say that a relationship ends on a good note, what I'm really trying to say, if the relationship between Malcolm and his former paramours ended in a way where they continued to have a friendship and had a mutual respect for one another, then I really can understand why and how deeply the grief goes for these women, you know. So I am not knocking them for posting their truth on social media in tribute to Malcolm. It only makes sense to me, you know. And the tributes that I have seen were always tasteful and they were loving, but you have to remember that they were posted in grief, okay? Because you have memories. One sister, Melina White, who played, I cannot think of her name right now. She was on the Cosby Show and on A Different World. She had a relationship, a romantic relationship with Malcolm Jamal Warner, and that's where all this discussion is concerning whether or not the exes of Malcolm should post anything or post pictures of them when they were in a relationship with Malcolm as part of their tribute posts on social media. And I just feel like, it's really none of our business. If they love this man, for whatever reason, the relationship came to an end, and they want to grieve him the way that they want to grieve him. It's not for us to say. But social media, today you have the president that's hopping online every day, all day long, saying stupid stuff. So I guess I guess, you know, um, people are feeling some kind of way. But what you have to understand, what I understand, and I guess it's because I'm a little bit older, what I understand is that, you know, Malcolm said in a recent interview that he was happy. He has had a conversation with another well-known celebrity, and that celebrity said that they were commensurate. I think it was Niecy Nash, that they were talking about together of how happy they are and how happy they are in their marriages. So that says a lot. The thing is that Malcolm, he married and he was happily married. So there is absolutely nothing that his former paramours could do to take away from the grief and the suffering that his wife and his daughter is going through right now. There's nothing that they could do or say to take that away from them, to lessen the importance that Malcolm felt for them in their lives. There's nothing that any of us can say that could remove that or, besmirch that. So I think it's just useless fodder for the internet to attack people for living and walking in their truth, especially while they're grieving. However, that's, I just wanted to come on here and and say that about Malcolm. Everything that I've heard about him, and from other people over the years, was that he was a great guy. He was a great person to work with. A fellow actor, a fellow thespian. He was generous in his acting. He treated people with respect. From what I understand, from what I've heard about him over the years, that he was a gentleman. Malcolm Jamal Warner didn't have any scandals related to him. I think the only thing that I remember about something scandalous was his relationship with, and it wasn't really scandalous. It's just that, his relationship with Regina King, he was with her for a couple of years, I think, and it ended badly. And she didn't mention his name directly, but she talked about the breakup of that relationship. And people are people. I can, two things, three things can be true of somebody at the same time. We're all human. We all have our faults and our flaws. That's what makes us human, and that's what makes us beautiful. So even though he may have had situations in his past, where, he may have fucked up, we all fuck up. We all do it. So, there's that. But that doesn't take away from the fact that the interactions that he had with other people, that people said great things about Malcolm Jamal Warner, which leads me to this point. I once heard a lecture, I think it was a TED talk or something, where they talked about the dash. And the dash is that little line that's right in the middle of your birth date and your transition date. Many times we just focus on the transition date, but what we really should focus on is the dash. The dash is what's important. What's important is what you do between your birth date and the day you transition. That middle part, that is the part that really, really counts. What you do with the time that you have been given. Do you know, and I say this often, do you know what your purpose is? Do you know your why? If you do not, that's something that you should explore, because knowing who you are, knowing what your purpose is on this planet, in this life, then you will understand that dash, that time that you have, you need to make the most of it. Fulfill that purpose. Because when you get to that last number, what that last number represents is that in totality, everything that you've done here on this planet, in this body, in your body, that part is done. It's complete. You have fulfilled whatever it is that you were put here to do. Now, whether or not you did that with apprehension, with regrets, you know, perhaps you feel that perhaps, you did not get the chance to do all the things that you wanted to do because of the constraints of whatever it was in your life. All of that last number is done. For this life, you have completed the mission. Now, whether or not in your spirit you feel that you did your absolute best, that's something that you have to reconcile with yourself, with God, or the universe. But from the first number, your birth, and that dash, that's where the living comes in at. That's where it's important. The dash. What are you doing in your life right now? Are you living the best life you can? Are you authentic to yourself? Are you authentic to your purpose? Are you living and walking each day within your path, within your purpose? That's the question we all have to ask ourselves. I know that when celebrities die and people that we really don't know, but we think we know, when they die, we feel some kind of way. I know I felt some kind of way because I thought of Malcolm Jamal Warner as the character of Theo as a little brother. I felt some kind of way. But what refreshed and warmed my heart was knowing that his dash showed that he lived a life where he stepped into his purpose. He explored himself as an African American man. He helped other people. He loved people. And in general, when people spoke about him, it was always in glowing terms. And that is what you and I should be working towards. We should be working on our dash, because the dash is what's really important. It's really not the end date. It's that dash. Are you making the most of your dash? Gotta think about it. All right, so I've been on here too long, maybe 5 to 10 minutes longer than I actually wanted to. But I just wanted to get on here and talk about Malcolm Jamal Warner and talk about how I felt about it. And Monday night, I sat back and I watched some old Cosby Show episodes on YouTube, and laughed. I laughed and I had a good time, and I'm sure I put The Resident on my schedule to watch. And there was a podcast that he worked on that was just released last week. So I'm going to put that on my list to check out over on Spotify. And, if you love Malcolm Jamal Warner, pay tribute to him in the way that you see the way that you see best. But for me, my suggestion to you is, if you're not walking in your purpose and you don't know what your purpose is, you need to explore that. And remember, it's not this date, or I should say this date, because to me, the end date is here, but for you, visually, the end date may be right here. Let me switch that up for you. Here's your birth date, and here is your transition date. We don't want to focus every day that we're living, people. We're walking with the end date right beside us every day. We don't want to talk about it. We don't want to think about it. But in actuality, every day that we live, we're walking with the end date right beside us. We don't know what that date is. So what we have to focus on is that dash. The dash is what's important. All right, I'm gonna get off of here. It's getting ready to storm, so you know what time it is. And there's my clock right there. It's about almost 4 o'clock, I think. And that's usually when it starts raining around these parts in Florida because it's the rainy season. So I'll see you later on here on in the tiny studio. And I hope that you have a wonderful day. And if you feel the need to pay respects to Malcolm Jamal Warner, do so in the best way that you know how. Watch some Cosby Show videos and just enjoy, or your favorite television show with him featured in it. Go ahead and do that, or listen to his musical endeavors over on Spotify or whatever music service or streaming service that you may have. Go ahead and do that because that supports his wife and his daughter, you know. I will talk to you guys at another time. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye-bye.